Introduction. Opening shot of a world map, zooming in on Europe. A voiceover begins. In the 20th century, the world was consumed by the deadliest conflict in human history. From 1939 to 1945, the Second World War raged across continents, claiming millions of lives and changing the course of history. This is the story of World War II. Causes of the war. Cut to archival footage and images of the political leaders of the time. The roots of the war lay in the aftermath of World War I, the Treaty of Versailles, and the rise of totalitarian regimes in Europe. Hitler and the Nazi Party's aggressive expansionism and anti-Semitic policies led to a conflict that would engulf the world. The invasion of Poland. Cut to footage of German troops invading Poland and Polish civilians fleeing. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, sparking the war in Europe. The Polish army fought bravely, but was soon overwhelmed by the German military machine. The Blitzkrieg. Cut to footage of German tanks and planes in action. The German Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, was a new form of warfare that relied on speed, surprise, and overwhelming force. The tactic proved devastating, as German forces conquered much of Europe in a matter of months. The Battle of Britain. Cut to footage of British planes and cities being bombed. In 1940, Hitler turned his sights on Britain. The Battle of Britain was fought in the skies over England, as the Royal Air Force fought to prevent the Luftwaffe from gaining air superiority. The resilience of the British people and the success of their pilots prevented an invasion. The Eastern Front. Cut to footage of the Russian army and battles in the snow. In June 1941, Hitler broke his non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union and invaded. The Eastern Front was the largest and deadliest theater of war, as German and Soviet armies fought in brutal conditions, with millions of casualties on both sides. The Pacific War. Cut to footage of Pearl Harbor and Japanese soldiers in action. While the war raged in Europe, Japan pursued its own imperialistic agenda in Asia and the Pacific. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor, drawing the United States into the war. The Holocaust. Cut to footage of concentration camps and survivors. While the war raged, the Nazis pursued their genocidal campaign against Jews, Romani, homosexuals, and other groups deemed undesirable. The Holocaust remains one of the darkest chapters in human history, with millions of innocent people murdered in cold blood. D-Day. Cut to footage of Allied troops landing on the beaches of Normandy. In 1944, the Allies launched a massive invasion of Nazi-occupied France. D-Day was the largest amphibious assault in history, as American, British, and Canadian troops fought their way onto the beaches of Normandy and into Europe. The Battle of Stalingrad. Cut to footage of Russian soldiers in the city and ruins of Stalingrad. The Battle of Stalingrad was a turning point in the war, as Soviet forces halted the German advance and turned the tide of the war in the east. The city was almost completely. The war in Asia. The Japanese forces had been expanding their empire throughout Asia for years before the start of the war. They quickly conquered much of Southeast Asia and the Pacific, including the Philippines, Singapore, and Guam. The United States responded by launching a counteroffensive, ultimately leading to the famous Battle of Midway, which proved to be a turning point in the Pacific theater of the war. The Holocaust. One of the most horrific events of the war was the systematic genocide of Jews and other minority groups by Nazi Germany. Millions of people were sent to concentration and extermination camps, where they were subjected to torture, starvation, and ultimately death. The liberation of these camps by Allied forces at the end of the war brought to light the full extent of the atrocities committed by the Nazis. The home front. While the fighting raged on overseas, life on the home front changed drastically for many people. Women and minorities took on new roles in the workforce, as many men went off to fight. Rationing of food and other goods was implemented, and civilians were encouraged to buy war bonds to help fund the war effort. Technology advances. World War II was a turning point in the development of military technology. Advances in weaponry, such as the atomic bomb, forever changed the way wars are fought. The war also saw the development of radar, jet engines, and other technologies that would go on to have a major impact on the world. Victory in Europe. On May 8, 1945, the Allies declared victory in Europe after the surrender of Germany. Celebrations broke out across the world as people finally saw an end to the war that had brought so much death and destruction. Victory in Japan. While victory in Europe was cause for celebration, the war was not yet over. The fighting in Asia continued until August 15, 1945, when Japan announced its surrender following the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The war was finally over, but at a great cost. The aftermath. In the wake of the war, the world was forever changed. The United States emerged as a superpower, and the Soviet Union rose to challenge them. The war had also brought about major social and cultural changes, as well as a renewed focus on international cooperation and the need to prevent future wars. Remembrance. Today, World War II is remembered as one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. Memorials and museums around the world pay tribute to the millions of lives lost, and the sacrifices made by those who fought for freedom and justice. Lessons learned. While the war was a tragic event, it also taught the world valuable lessons about the dangers of nationalism and the importance of working together to build a more peaceful and just world. The war also paved the way for the formation of the United Nations, an organization dedicated to promoting international cooperation and preventing future conflicts. Legacy. The legacy of World War II can still be felt today, from the technology we use to the geopolitical landscape of the world. The war had a profound impact on human history, and serves as a reminder of the importance of remembering the past, learning from it, and working towards a better future.